I am certainly not surprised. Put Charlie Chester in the presence of a woman, and he just lets it all out apparently. Hello my friends, untypical millennial here. I'm currently taking in the absolute bombshell James O'Keefe recently dropped on Project Veritas. Charlie Chester, CNN's technical director, well, I'm not sure at the moment as CNN has been silent on all this. But who was CNN's technical director at the time, was caught in many undercover shot videos by Project Veritas, admitting to spreading misinformation, using fear to drive ratings, exploiting the what I will call, the outbreak, and even admitting to reporting false information regarding previous President Trump and current President Biden to influence the election. After seeing this footage, it clearly showed what many people have suspected. But I am not sure why anyone is surprised by this. While I am not anti-capitalist, news can only make money off of one system essentially, getting viewers to sell advertising space. That is it. Using situations like the outbreak to influence the population and keep them glued to their reporting. I won't add much more. I will let the footage speak for itself, then we can come back and talk more about it.
I think we got him through this term. We would always show shots of him jogging, him in aviator shades, and like you paint him as a young geriatric.
We were creating a story there that we didn't know anything about. So that's I think that's propaganda.
I think what we did, we got Trump out. I am 100% going to say it, and I 100% believe it, that if it wasn't for CNN, I don't know that Trump would have got voted out.
Our focus was to get Trump out of office, right? Without saying it, that's what it was, right? So our next thing is going to be for climate change awareness.
Do you think it's going to be just like a lot of like fear, like climate?
Yeah, fear sells. Fear sells.
No one ever says those things out loud, but it's obvious. I mean, like Trump, we did it. Like when Trump was, I don't know, like his hand was shaking or whatever like that. We brought in like so many medical people to like all tell a story that like it was all speculation. That he was like neurological damage, like that he was losing it. He's unfit to, whatever. We were creating a story there that we didn't know anything about. So that's I think that's propaganda. We had nothing else to run with at that time. We were like just taking shots off the bow, just hoping something would hit.
And our next thing is going to be for climate change awareness.
What does that look like?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I have a feeling it's just going to be like constantly showing videos of like decline in ice and weather warming up and like the effects it's having on the economy and really
Who
diving
decides that?
the head of the network, like just
Who's that? Is that Zucker?
Zucker, yeah. I imagine that he's got his council and they've all like discussed like where they think
So that's like the next
pandemic like story like that will be to death. But that one's got longevity. You know what I mean? It's not like there's a definitive ending to the pandemic, or like it'll taper off to a point that it's not a problem anymore. Probably think it's going to take years, so they'll probably be able to milk that for quite a bit. So.
We are barely even getting started on just some of this footage Project Veritas has obtained. First off, this is the most damning evidence of the media exploiting its viewers. Do you hear how he refers to these issues like they are some sort of tool? A malleable tool that can be used however they need it. If it keeps you coming back for more, CNN will continuously push these issues until they can't any longer. This is the breakdown of integrity in journalism. It is no longer about reporting accurate information. It is a culture war dominated by the loudest and most consistent voice. We should call out the actors in this scheme, and this is why Charlie Chester is a hero and loser all in one sitting. Let's continue. It seems Mr. Chester Cheeto basically spills the beans on all the hot topics in the news, and how CNN misleads the public. But I digress. Please Charlie, go on.
COVID, gangbusters with ratings. Gangbusters with ratings, right? Which is why we constantly have the death toll on the side. Let's make it higher. Like, why isn't it high enough, today? Like, it would make our point better if it was higher.
It's fear. Like, fear really drives numbers. Fear is the thing that keeps you tuned in.
If it bleeds, it leads. Yeah.
If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
Sad news doesn't do well with ratings. You know, like if you can get someone impassioned, that does really well with ratings. Sad news back to back to back doesn't do really well unless it affects them directly. COVID, gangbusters with ratings, right? Which is why we constantly have the death toll on the side, which I have a major problem with, that we're tallying how many people die every day. Because I've even looked at it and be like, let's make it higher. Like, why isn't it high enough, today? Like, it would make our point better if it was higher. And I'm like, what am I rallying for? That's a problem.
Yeah.
That we're doing that,
Well, I mean, it helps with ratings.
Of course, yeah, but I would expect. I have a job. Sure, like I'm happy about that, but I don't know.
Who gets to decide how long that stays on, or
head of the network? I've been in the room many a times where my director tells me take it down, and I take it down, and then we get a phone call, the bat phone rings in the back, literally a red phone, the special red phone rings.
Yeah.
And they pick it up, and this producer picks it up, and you're mop, 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 mop. And every so often they put it on speaker, and it's like the head of the network being like, there's nothing that you're doing right now that makes me want to stick. Put the numbers back up, because that's the most enticing thing that we have. So put it back up. So things like that are constantly talked about. We've led them to talk about how we want them to talk about it. It's always leading them in a direction before they even open their mouth. And the only people that we let on the air, for the most part, are people that have a proven track record of taking the bait. I think there's an art to manipulation. I think some people have figured it out inherently, but
with the media, or just in general,
and in just conversations.
Yeah.
I think when you ever meet somebody that you feel like you're being gaslit by, start to listen to how they word things.
What do you mean?
Inflection, saying things twice, there's little subtleties to how to manipulate people.
What's the difference between doing that on a one-on-one basis or a widespread news organization?
Oh yeah, I mean it's enough to change the world. Yeah.
Isn't that the plan?
Yeah, there's a plan. I think this time it worked with the Trump thing, but look at the other side, how devastated they were. So were we the good guys, the bad guys? Depends on which side you were looking at it though.
Believe it or not, this is just a fraction of all the videos released by James O'Keefe exposing CNN. I will put a link to Project Veritas's YouTube channel in the description so you can see it for yourself. Absolutely incredible that they were able to capture this footage. Charlie covers practically every current issue and how CNN stays alive by latching onto them and sucking them dry. In my opinion, CNN and other media outlets promoting this same type of stuff will ultimately meet their demise. But until then, we should keep exposing them. If you ask me, James O'Keefe is currently at war with big tech and corporate media. He currently is suing the likes of Twitter and CNN for defamation. And after winning a lawsuit against the New York Times for the same thing, it seems O'Keefe is taking the gloves off and letting them have it. Watch O'Keefe explain the situation in more detail on Project Veritas's newest video.
Today we're filing a lawsuit against CNN for defamation. Just last week we sued Twitter for defamation, and all of this comes off the heels of our win in the New York State Supreme Court in a historic motion granting us discovery into the New York Times in a defamation action after they called us deceptive. But let's get back to CNN and why we're filing suit. On February 11th, Twitter permanently banned Project Veritas for allegedly, quote, posting other people's private information. Even Congressman Crenshaw pointed this out in a hearing with CEO Jack Dorsey.
Mr. Dorsey, in just one example, I saw a video of that from Project Veritas that was taken down because they confronted a Facebook executive on his front lawn. But here's the thing, I can show you a video of CNN doing the exact same thing to an old woman who was a Trump supporter in her front yard. I've looked at both videos. It's an apples to apples comparison. CNN remains up. Project Veritas was taken down.
Yet on February 14th, CNN's Ana Cabrera falsely stated on air that Project Veritas' deplatforming was part of a, quote,
crackdown to try to stop the spread of misinformation and to hold some people who are spreading it accountable. Brian, for example, Twitter has suspended the account of Project Veritas.
However, 3 days prior, Ana Cabrera actually tweeted out, quote, Twitter permanently bans Project Veritas for repeated violations of Twitter's policies prohibiting sharing people's private information. So Cabrera knew when she tweeted out 3 days prior the reason was posting private information that she said on air, quote, promoting misinformation. Two completely different things. Brian Stelter saying on the air that we had, quote, multiple violations when we're only aware of one supposed violation from Twitter.
Project Veritas, a very controversial conservative group, got swept up in a Twitter policy by violating multiple rules on the site.
Perhaps the greatest irony here is everyone in the media accuses us of misinformation, when that's precisely what they do. Maybe, just maybe, when Brian Stelter says,
I feel really bad for you,
he's projecting how he feels about what he does onto all of us. Stay tuned and lawyer up, CNN.
I must say it's refreshing to see a group like Project Veritas getting wins against established media companies that control the flow of information. This type of pressure is what is most effective when it comes to these entities, and James O'Keefe is spearheading those efforts. I also find it hilarious he took time to take a jab at Brian Stelter, who in my eyes, is the furthest thing from an actual journalist, constantly gaslighting and sliding in his ridiculous opinion through his flawed view of the world. I honestly don't see how normal people can't look at folks at CNN and think, these just don't seem like genuine people. They lie, manipulate, mislead, and scare the public into bending to their requests essentially. Wake up, people. You are being played. I would love to hear your thoughts on everything we just discussed. Thank you for tuning in, my friends. If you enjoy content like this, please help support by subscribing and leaving a like on this video. You will see me again very soon. Initiating program Deep Thought. Goodbye.